dreams collide. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs, hearts ablaze through the cheers and cloudy days. From the lane to glory's flight. Spotlight on Spurs, shine so bright. Echoes rise when we take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight on Spurs, loud and pure.
It's been a while. So take the mute off. Guys, welcome back to Spotlight on Spurs. Hopefully everyone is doing well. We have finally, well, some of us are not even recovered just yet from Tottenham, but we're here, the first show of the new season. I mean, we're barely over the last one, but as I said, we are here. Got a great panel lined up as always. Thank you very much, guys. Just to start off, I've got the links are all in the chat already. X, YouTube, all of that sort of stuff. Go over, follow the guys that are going to be on the show. But starting off, let's do some housekeeping. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, Chris Hubble, how are we doing, my man?
Afternoon, mate. All good. Just back from holiday, so still trying to get back into the swing of day-to-day life. But as you were saying before, it's nice to be talking about positivity with Spurs and transfers rather than doom and gloom with match fixtures and results. So yeah, switched off for a bit while I was on holiday from Spurs, come back and see that we've made a few signings and a couple in the pipeline. So all good.
Yeah, but it's the hope that kills you. We'll get onto that. Let's just go with positivity for the time being. Let's see by the end of the show if we're still in that same light. Alan joining us once again from Tottenham Logic TV. Had some massive achievements over on the channel the last couple of weeks. Make sure you go over and subscribe to the channel and also follow him over on X. Alan, how we doing, my man?
Yeah, I have to mirror what Chris said as well. It's so good to get that season over and done with. Every week I couldn't wait for it to end, and it went dragged on to the last bloody day, didn't it? And I just wanted it to be over, us to stay up, and we can have the positivity of the summer window, hopefully, to turn things around and finally have some positive things to talk about, because these fans, right, our fans deserve something better than, what we had last season. We need something to cheer about. So hopefully we can talk about some positive things today.
Absolutely. Ashes seems to be having a bit of internet connection. This is the joys of not only being Spurs but also streaming live. So Ash, I'm sure, will be joining us shortly. When he does come back in, we'll give him obviously a massive hello. Let's just go through the chat because there's been quite a few questions coming in, quite a few hellos and all of that sort of stuff. So big up Gary, regular, always coming through. Big up to you, my man. Simon coming in, big up to you. Van Hecke happening, we'll be discussing that as well. Adrian, as always, good evening, my man. I hope you are well. Look, Senesi being called up. Yeah, we will be discussing a little bit on that as well. Another thing to look forward to already for the new season is obviously the fixtures being released. And Mexico, I believe, are still 2-0 up with only a few minutes. I think it's 15 minutes left now. It's going to be a bit of a weird one because obviously when we go live, there is going to be some games being played on particular weeks. We might have to make some adjustments depending on what games are being played. I don't think there's anything up until sort of knockout stages where it's like massive games, but we'll keep you posted. Check out the X account and everything else, and then Gary coming back in. Yeah, I wasn't watching the football. I had some technical difficulties that I had to sort out before I could go live. At this current stage, there was a green screen that you just couldn't see what was going on. It was a bit of a strange, but we are here. Chris, we were saying it earlier, just in regard before we kind of came on about Spurs and how we sort of feel. And normally every single conversation is at the end of the season, everyone comes on and you kind of say, what do you think about the season? Summarize it. But it's not really much to summarize because everyone had exactly the same sort of thoughts and feelings. So I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, and that is, what did last season teach you? What did you learn from last season? And I'll give you my one. It was towards the end of the season, particularly, I realised I didn't hate Arsenal as much as I thought I did. I always thought my love for Spurs was as much as my hate for Arsenal. Getting towards the end of that season, boy, I was not considered or caring about Arsenal whatsoever because all I was worried about was Spurs going down. What's your big takeaway from... Oh, 1 minute, 1 second. I'll come back to you because Ash has joined us. Big up, Ash. Thank you for coming in, my man. Hope you're well.
Big up. Thanks for having me on, guys. Carry on, man. You're asking a question. I'm listening, man.
No, we'll go back to Chris now. I just wanted to make sure we introduce you. I didn't want to leave you out. Chris, what was your big takeaway from last year?
There's so many things to consider from last season. I don't actually have... It's probably just similar to yours. Like you're so focused on what everyone else is doing around you, but you end up getting sucked into just the vacuum of what's going on with Spurs. And yeah, that I probably shows for me. It's probably taught me as well that I actually need to be more involved with football myself, because you can get so out of touch quite quickly, and the negativity on some of the backwards and forwards stuff on Twitter and the social media, it was just bonkers. So football, I think I need to start being more in touch with, but the social media stuff, I think I could quite easily pass that all over and just give that a miss and get rid of that, because some of the stuff on there was just bonkers.
Absolutely. And if you haven't already, go and subscribe to the social media that he doesn't want to use. Alan, was there anything that last season taught you? I mean, one of the other things could be how big a difference having a top manager is, right? Because we look dead and buried under two average managers, whatever you want to call them, and then one good one comes in and we look a completely different team. But what was your big takeaway from last year, if there was one? Oh, he's muted himself. He's done it. He's muted himself.
Sorry, mate.
There we go.
I'm so unprofessional. Yeah, so what I learned from last season was I've learned myself now not to big up these youngsters too quickly. Yeah? You can hear me, can't you? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I've learned not to big up these youngsters too much and too quickly, because we saw at the end of the season we couldn't do it with them. We had to put the experienced guys in to get us over the line. I also learned not to love a manager too quick, because I rated Thomas Frank, and then after about 3-4 months, I was like, I don't want this guy anymore. Like when it got to like December, I was like, nah, he needs to go before the transfer window opens. So what I've learned is I shouldn't jump the gun on anything, let it play out for a bit, and then give my opinion, because I think I've given my opinion too quickly. And like you as well, I'm sort of glad Arsenal won the league, because now it's made me realise I don't care. I really don't care. I thought I'd really care about it, but I don't. I really don't. I was too bothered about my own club to care about them. I even forgot about it until you mentioned it now. So it's like, yeah. So for me, I've learned that, you know, Spurs cannot be in this position again. I've learned that too many mistakes can get anyone relegated. It doesn't matter who you are. So, and we need to sort it out. That's what I've learned. I've learned that we need to really, really sort a lot out. There's more to sort out than I realised at this club.
Schoolboy and all of us. I've done it at the start of the show. Alan's done it. We've got to have a few more going on. Up to you, my man. Ash, is there anything that we learned? I think actually Alan makes a decent point in terms of young players. Sometimes we sign these young players, we hype them up so much, and everyone's guilty of it. But what's your big takeaway from last year?
Yeah, it's crazy, because the young players are an interesting subject, because I think a lot of people in a fan base still hype the academy players, knowing the position that we're in. But I think that's a subject that you could possibly speak about on another show. I think I learned a lot about a manager's ability to have personality. I think that's the word I'm looking for, because I thought the coaching would be enough to kind of help some of these players. With a bit more structure, we could get more out of them. However, we all saw what happened under Frank. I think in terms of like reading the room, having some type of, we talk about IQ a lot, and Thomas Frank's got amazing IQ. However, in terms of inspiring people, emotional intelligence, yeah, I get it. I don't know if he really understood what it meant to be a Tottenham manager or a Tottenham coach or something, a club of this magnitude. Do you know what I mean? He understood that there was going to be a big step up, but in terms of like how he spoke about Arsenal in the first press conference, he was talking about Arsenal. I remember the friendly we had. He was really like galvanizing them, like saying how great they are, and then he kind of stopped himself, and then throughout, like he just kept doing it. He couldn't help himself, and so I think I learned a lot about managers making a jump, doing one particular job at their club, and then making that jump into Spurs, and sometimes it doesn't always translate. So moving forward, even though I think De Zerbi's a good coach, and he did a good job at Brighton, and at Marseille, he did somewhat of a good job, but then it kind of fell out of favor towards the end. I'm trying to slow down now. I'm trying to slow down to say maybe, it might not be all roses and sunshine, do you know what I mean? Or rainbows. So I'm still not like, I'm not going to move like I did with Frank, even though originally I did want Areola. That was my original guy. But I did get carried away, like with most fans, with the whole coaching staff, and this coach is going to help improve his player, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I think that was a learning curve for myself.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, environment as well is massive, right? Like we say it so many times, we're going to talk about transfers, players coming in, who we want to come in. But when there's different expectations, there's just completely different things. We've seen managers fail to step up. We've seen players fail to step up. There's so much more going on than just a simple, can he do it? Can he adapt? Can he score goals at this level and that level? There's so much that goes into it. And we as fans just look at it very like one-sided. This is how it is, when actually there is so much more. But also we are fans. So when we hear about a player that's linked to us, for instance, and we've never heard of them, we all do the same thing. We go onto X and look at these brilliant, or X and YouTube, we see these brilliant videos of how amazing they're going to be. And we forget about all of the negative stuff that we'll see. And we'll just look at all the positives. Or we do the opposite, right? Where we just see a player and we just look at all the negatives and say, well, he's going to be bad. But I think that is part of being Spurs. But maybe, just maybe, Spurs were the problem and not every single player and manager and issue that's come in. Maybe we're a bit of the problem and need to look at that. Hopefully we're starting to address that this year. But as we said, Chris, I just want to touch a little bit because the World Cup is starting today. How are you feeling about the whole World Cup? Are you certainly like, I always used to look forward to watching Spurs players in the World Cup, because most of the time, especially in the older, a few years back, for instance, we would have some decent players playing for decent clubs. Now it's like, there's a bit meh, really, to be honest with you. I think most of the players that have been called up are defenders. But in terms of the World Cup, are you excited to kind of take your mind a little bit away from Spurs? You can focus on a different type of football.
It'd be interesting because you get to see a load of different players, and I think players do play that. They play their 150% when they play for their country as well. So it's interesting to watch all these other countries and actually see some potential players that you might see, not maybe at Spurs, but just around the Premier League next season and other big leagues as well. So it's always good to watch the World Cup, especially when your country's in it. Support your country throughout, but then it's always good watching the other teams to just see what players can come through, and it always adds a couple of zeros on, I think, to transfers. That's the only trouble. If someone has a good transfer window who we've been linked with, you normally find that if the value is 30 million, they have a good World Cup, it goes up to 70 million. So it can sometimes go against you in that sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we play till Wednesday, so we've got about 5 days until I think it will really get good for us watching England play. But it's just good. I always love when there's Euros and World Cups on. It keeps the football flowing through the summer.
Yeah, it does mean we get to see a little bit of football, and you're definitely right. There's always that one World Cup star who has a good World Cup, but actually doesn't ever really do anything other than that, and it is bought for an absolute fortune, which is quite funny. But Alan, what are your thoughts on the World Cup?
Yeah, I'll watch it definitely. I haven't been really watching England for the last year or so. All these international breaks, they just bore me. But I will watch the World Cup. I mean, like, you know, I never missed one, I don't think, since I've been 4 years old. So I'm looking forward to seeing our players. I'm looking forward to seeing players like Vuskovic play for Croatia. We just spoke about not picking up your young players, so I haven't forgot that. Don't worry. But I need to see how good he actually is, and we'll see him in the World Cup. So that is a high standard to see your players playing, you see. So if he does, you know, if he's poor in the World Cup, then we know not to big him up too much. We've got Senesi now, he's been called up. So I sort of didn't want him to be called up in a way, because if Van der Ven gets really far in the tournament, we could have had Senesi covering him at left centre back while he was coming back from the tournament. But congratulations to him anyway. I'm looking forward to seeing how far England can go. I don't know whether they could win it. There's some bloody good teams in there. And dark horse for me would probably be Japan. So I think they're going to be shit hot this year as well. Yeah, it's good to have a break from Spurs, to be honest, because, you know, last season was draining for everybody. Like, nobody wanted to speak about it. You know, you had to make videos every week, or I was doing it every day. And, you know, in the comments, it was just everyone was so angry. And I was like, I haven't done it. Do you know what I mean? I haven't done anything. We're just talking about it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so it's nice to have a little break, and hopefully we can come back really refreshed from this World Cup and probably learn a few things from the World Cup, probably be linked to about 1 million players from the World Cup as well. So we can be talking about that as well.
Let's not moan about that. Content's got a content, and we all know that yourself and Ash as well love looking at a few players to see who might fit into Spurs system. Ash, what are you looking? I know what you're looking forward to. You're looking forward to finding unknown players that could be very, very good in possibly a Spurs system. But what's your main focus on for this World Cup that's coming up, my man?
No, I'm like Alan, man. Look, the World Cup is a nice distraction. You know, it's as simple as that. We've had a hard season. We've suffered a lot. And yeah, it's a good way to take your mind off things. And people probably got maybe a few bets or just a few hedges against friends, or entered fantasy competitions, or, you know, little sweepstakes in your workplace. So that's all fun, you know. Like, this World Cup for me, there hasn't been too much noise about it. It's been quite quiet, in my opinion. And I don't know if it's because of Trump and the USA and all the noise surrounding FIFA, the corruption, etc. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to teams like France. I think France, their team is like PSG times 100, because they've got Elise and Turkey on top of Doué, do you know what I mean? And Dembele. Yeah. So it's like that team is on steroids. So I can't see any team getting past them, apart from maybe Mbappe being the weak link, which is funny to say because he banged 26 goals. It's insane. But when you're talking about off the ball, like our possession play, I think that's been a hot topic in football meta at the moment, like how teams press and work, get the ball back. It's all about the forwards, how intense they are. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Equally, I'm looking at dark horses, like Ellen was saying again. I'm looking at Senegal. I'm looking at Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is a hot dark horse for me. They've got a few players that I'm very interested in. I know Liverpool have now opened up negotiations, or they've made an opening bid for Yan Diamonde. He's only had one breakout season, but let's see if he's really about the business. Do you know what I mean? There's a player that I like called Toure Banazuma. I've been watching him for 2 years now, and he's made the jump from, I can't remember what league it was. Is it maybe Belgium? Or the Scandinavian league, and now he's in Germany, he's in Hoffenheim. He plays on the left-hand side, really quick, fast, but he doesn't start for the Ivory Coast because their team is so strong. Yeah, teams like Spain, like the comments are saying, Spain, they've got a great team. And it's the last dance, and I thought the last World Cup was, but this is the last dance for the Messi Ronaldo saga. But I just think Messi just streaks above him. I know there's a few Ronaldo fans out there, but I just think he's just another level. And Argentina, the way they play is mad aggressive. They do the whole fluidity thing as well with the midfield. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there, man. But there's a lot of narratives that are going to be had, and a lot of narratives will be broken as well at the World Cup. So yeah, like slowly I'm going to get into it. There's so many more games than usual, but
mad.
Yeah, that's the only problem, because I don't mind that there were less games, and it was the fact that it's at 2 a.m. in the morning, 4:30. There's a game at 4:30. No, brother. What?
Yeah, the times are killers.
I'll be real. If it's hot at night and I can't sleep, I'm gonna flick the football one. That's the only good thing. Yeah. And also, like in my area, I can go out, bars, pubs, clubs that open. Like I've got like a club that's near me, and it holds like 4,500, 5,000 people. So like around my area is gonna be buzzing. Like night buses, trains, everything's gonna be running. So I kind of don't mind that kind of vibe, the energy that World Cup brings with you, like, you know.
I love the way on this show all of us have said something and then almost instantly gone back on that. So Ash was like, I don't like the late, it's too early in the morning, but hang on a minute, I'm going to be out all night, I'm loving it, I've got places to be. So we've all contradicted ourselves, and this is Spurs right now. We don't know where we're at, we don't know what we're doing, because what Spurs are putting us through. But I agree. I think this World Cup is definitely something that you're going to kind of get into a little bit more and more as the games kind of go by. But talking about that, and I think Alan already mentioned it about Senesi. Obviously, it looks like a lot of defenders have been called up. Some are now, or possibly some of them are going to miss the start of pre-season, which obviously could be quite a pivotal thing, and that could end up being quite massive. Obviously, De Zerbi sort of had a pre-season because he had the players for a few games, but I feel like that could be a real pivotal thing for new signings to come in and really fully understand what he sort of needs. But the rebuild has already started. Obviously, there were plenty of fans throughout last season saying that we needed to sell 25 and bring in 25. Doesn't look like it's going to be as many as that. However, as I said, it has started. Robertson has come in. We kind of had a feeling this was happening, and a lot of fans and media, to be fair, thought that Robertson would be appearing for Tottenham in January last year. We've waited till the summer before it's been pulled out. But Chris, what do you think about Andrew Robertson? It's been a bit 50-50 in the fan base, but where do you sit with it?
I think it's a solid signing for us. It's someone that's going to bring that winning mentality, the leadership, a left-footed left back as well, which is it's always nice, as we've spoke about on here quite a few times this season. So I think it makes sense. I don't think he's going to revolutionise our defence or the way that we play, but it's a steady signing, and I think at this moment in time, that's what we need.
Yeah, Steady Eddie. Steady Eddie will come on to a player that we all felt like he was going to be replacing shortly. But Alan, do you think that Robertson is that sort of player that Spurs needed to bring in? We were saying about the younger players earlier, saying that they needed good players around them, good pros around them. Is Robertson fit in that category for you?
Yeah, when we were linked to him in January, I wasn't happy with it then, because we needed to replace Johnson. We still needed a left winger. Our attack was really poor. So bringing in Robertson in January really didn't make any sense to me. Yeah, leadership qualities maybe, but I didn't think he would make much difference in the relegation battle because the confidence was just gone from all the players. But it makes more sense now that you've seen all the players. When we used all of our experienced players to get through these Premier League games, it made a massive difference. Like people like Paulinho and Bentancur in that middle really made a difference for us. So it makes sense. He's a winner. He knows what he's doing. He can really teach players like Udogie and Sousa as well. They can really come on. He can teach them all the ways of the left back and how to do it. So, they'll benefit from it as well. If Sousa stays, he might bloody go on loan or something. We don't know yet. But I think he's not. I don't even think he's done yet either. I think the problem he had was there's no way he can play how he wants to play for 60 games a season. But if he's playing once per week, he can play full 90s. and I think he'll be okay. Or even if he played 70 minutes, I still think he would contribute quite a bit. He's got a hell of a cross on him. He's got a good shot on him. You know, he's very experienced. So he in games where we need experience and know-how, he would be vital and a big asset for us, I think.
Yeah. Ash, what do you think? Robertson is a decent signing?
Stopgap, I think. I think he's a stopgap. I'll be honest with you. The reason why I think he's a stopgap is I think we want to focus more on like the midfield and the wide players and striker. So in that sense, what they're saying is we want to address the left-hand side because we know it's lacking. We need cover for the doggy. He's not there all the time. And when you look at the centre-back situation, that needed to be sorted out as well because Van der Ven played a whole season. And we've addressed both of those situations with Robertson and Senesi, in my opinion. So, and it was a free transfer. So I think that's the reason why we've done what we've done. Robertson in itself, I think he's obviously a top professional. We spoke about it already. I think he played like near or close to like 15 to 20 games last season. So decent amount of games. I just think I'm not worried about him going forward that way. On the way back is where I want to watch. I want to see how he copes with the wingers in the Premier League, going left or right, jinking, taking them other way, because Robertson was known for his engine, in my opinion. That's what we knew him for. Like him and Trent, up and down, overlapping fullbacks under Klopp. And that's when you saw the best of them. And I watched a few videos of Klopp saying, oh, yeah, when he came from Hull, he was brilliant at getting forwards, crossing that ball, but attacking. He said he needed to work on that defensive side a lot more. And he said, I need you to do that. And he's the type of guy, Robertson, that if you say something, he's going to go away and he's going to do it 2 times fold or 3 times fold. So that's what I like about him, the mentality. So people will try to write him off. He will probably go out there, work twice as hard to show that he's got the fitness levels, he's got the stamina, he's got the engine's still there. I just worry about, like, in the Premier League season, defensively, they might target, if they see Robertson's not quite capable defensively, they might target our left-hand side, in my opinion. I would have preferred if we got a left-back that was in the age range of 23 and like maybe 27, 28. So then that way they can get up and down and it's more competition for your doggy. Do you know what I mean? I think, yes, Robertson might start some games and that helped the doggy because the doggy, for me, he'll be a much better player with more rest. So if Robertson's doing 70 minutes and then the doggy comes on or vice versa, I think that works well with us and you get a better your doggy. The doggy underlaps a bit more. I think Robertson, you'll see, arrive in the space as opposed to beating his man or taking his man on. He's not that type of fullback, in my opinion. So overall, I'm not mad. I'm not going to say a great signing. I'm not going to say poor. I'm like that. Do you know what I mean? Because I understand the rebuild. You can't do it all in one season.
That's exactly it, right? It's a free transfer. If you'd have spent 25 million, 30 million on a left back, you're not there. You can't then focus that money elsewhere. He's good experience. But saying that, and I'm not, this is, when I say stuff, I'm very much just trying to find answers to it. I'm not saying this is what I think or whatever, but many, and when I say many, I think virtually everybody felt that with Robertson almost being announced, it would mean that Ben Davies would be leaving the club and wouldn't be signing a new contract whatsoever. Because obviously Robertson looks like a player that will play left back majority of the time and potentially could help out at left centre back if required. Unlikely, but could do. Similar sort of setup to, like, if you like, as Ben Davies. But obviously Ben Davies has now signed a new contract as well, Chris. There are some fans that are saying don't really care, he's never going to play. But if we're signing players up to new contracts, are you expecting them to have some sort of input in this squad and the playing that we've got this year? And then if he does, what does that look like as a squad? Because we can only play a certain amount of players. You can only have a squad list. And at the moment, our defensive setup is looking, there is huge numbers in there, like so many in there at this moment in time. So was you surprised when you see Robertson signing to then also see Ben Davies getting that contract? And do you think that it was something Spurs should have done?
Especially when you see today that apparently De Zerbi said in an interview that he wants to keep Udogie as well. So it's like, well, hang on a minute, now you've got four potential left backs. So it's a bit of a shocking one. I know he's been a good servant of the club. The year extension, again, I don't know whether that's just to have him as a squad player and maybe he knows what his role will be next year. But yeah, it was a strange one for me, especially as you say, you've signed, if Udogie's staying, you've signed Robertson, you've got Sousa, who I imagine would go out on loan. It just doesn't make sense as to why we need it. Plus, we've got about 95 centre backs as well. I can't even see him fitting in as a centre back. So I don't know. Is it? Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one.
Do you think that Davies deserved that new contract because of the loyalty that he's shown? And obviously, that the rumor is that he will go into coaching after that 1 year's expired. But do you think that Spurs should just be a little bit more ruthless and say, no, look, we've got Robertson, he's the experience, we're going? Or do you think that it was right to offer him a new contract?
I feel like De Zerbi, when he come in, there was obviously Davis was injured, but I think it was the last couple of games he come out and said, like, Ben Davis has been a really influential player in the dressing room. He wanted to be around the club still, even though he was injured and he couldn't physically play. So maybe De Zerbi's looking at it from that point of view and as well, and having that mindset in the dressing room. But I imagine he would have spoken to Ben Davis about that, and I think Ben Davis would understand whatever capacity and why he has been signed. He would have agreed to that, because I imagine he could have potentially have gone somewhere else and maybe got some minutes, whether it be at a lower league or whatever. So, yeah, it's probably a bit of everything really, but I don't see where we would need him for the actual team. It's more, is he just in there just to be a squad player, and he might get 10 minutes here and there.
Yeah. Alan, was you surprised that Ben Davies got given a new contract?
Yeah, very surprised, to be honest, because like Chris said, when Robertson came in, you'd think that's it for Davies. But if I look at it in another way, De Zerbi was talking about different formations. Do you think he might play three at the back? He could be doing that. So he might be thinking, if we have like a major injury crisis again, he wants to be fully covered, because you know Van der Ven lasted all season, but what if he doesn't do that again next season? He'll be out. We don't know how Senesi and whoever else comes in deals with, you know, the high press and all that sort of stuff. So we might be playing different formations. If Davis was coming in to be like help around as a coach sort of thing for the under-21s and then come in and help the team, fair enough. But if he's taken up a squad place and taken up squad wages as well, it doesn't make sense if you're not going to play him at all. It doesn't make sense to me. Like we didn't learn from last year. We need a lot of quality in this squad. We need quality. So if somebody is injured, we need somebody just as good to come in and take their place. If you've got Van der Ven, and this is no disrespect to Ben Davis, I love that guy, yeah. But if you've got Van der Ven injured and then Ben Davis comes in as a replacement, that's a massive drop-off. It's a massive. Then he will be targeted every game that we play going forwards. And he will be, no matter how like professional he is. And he's not a crap player, by the way. He's still half decent, but he's not at the levels of what we need in the Premier League now. There's so many quick strikers and wingers now that could just run rings around him. He's got the know-how in that, but I don't know whether you should be going for experience all the time and sacrificing quality, because you need both. You do need both. And if you've got Robertson in for the, you know, the know-how and all that sort of stuff, you've got that. So you don't need a Ben Davis and a Robertson. You need just, I don't know. For me, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it. I think we're getting too sentimental on players sometimes.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Because as you say, it's not only have you got that sort of style of player, but they play in virtually exactly the same positions. If you're going to go with the Robertson signing, would it have just made more sense to probably just keep Ben Davies in the first place and not go for Robertson and do exactly what Ash said and actually go for a more what you would hope would be a more player that's pushing to become the main fullback in your team. As you said, Udogie potentially looked like he was probably going to go now. There's obviously some debate around that. We will go into ins and outs in a little while because, as I say, there has to be a massive overhaul because the amount of ones that are coming in. But Ash, from your perspective, do you think bringing Ben Davies in, do you think, keeping Ben Davies and bringing in Robertson, is that sort of weird squad planning in your behalf as well? Was that what you think?
Yeah. Because I just think it's a multitude of things, because reading the room is important, in my opinion. Like knowing your fan base, understanding what's required, because a lot of fans want to see young players. They get excited about the potential ceiling. They start to imagine and dream. I think that's why so many people like young players, but it feels like he could possibly block academy space. Like someone could get those minutes that are coming through, and we desperately want to see our young players get a chance, a few minutes here and there. So on Ben's part, you're selfish. Yeah, you're selfish. You could have just done the coaching thing. You didn't need to be a part of the squad, you know. So you don't need to be a player coach, do you? You don't need to be a coach and be registered as a player. That's what I'm saying. But look, I guess Alan's right. If that is the case, that we are going to a back three, and I did think this as well, then it's 2 players for every position. Because I don't remember the last time Ben Davies actually played left back. Last couple of seasons, he's been playing centre back as cover. And I don't think he's got the legs to play left back either. So it'll be interesting to see if he does go to left back. But yeah, if it is a 3 at the back, you need 2 players for every position. That means you need 6 centre backs. So the 6 centre backs could be, if I cut off the top of my head, if you're saying Romero is definitely gone, if that's what the comments are saying, and if we're saying that Dragushin is definitely gone, then what does that leave in terms of centre backs? It might leave 6, you know? So maybe that's the reason why De Zerbi wants him to stick around for an extra year. And he did talk about professionalism in comparison to other players. So he didn't mention names directly, but he just said he liked professionalism in the team. And then
we can have a feeling, can have a guess.
Yeah, we can have a step in the dark, it may be. But listen, I don't want to take over your show. I'm just saying, like, in terms of Ben Davies, I think that's the reason why he was brought in according to De Zerbi. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So if it is in terms of squad planning, then that's the only thing that makes logical sense to me. And I know De Zerbi likes leaders and senior players of that sort.
Yeah, it is a strange one. I can understand why they would have wanted to keep him on. I'm just not sure about having both of them. And then when you also add in, as we've kind of mentioned, first of all, we were a fairly decent defensive team under De Zerbi towards the end of the season. And that's a small sample size, I get that. But everyone has been screaming, saying we need to fully go and invest in this strike force. We need better midfielders. And we've absolutely overhauled sort of the defensive sort of positions that we currently have. But obviously bringing in Senesi as well, and then you've also got the links to Van Hecke. We will discuss, as I said earlier, about players we think are going to be leaving. Obviously, there'll be plenty of rumours about Vuskovic, Romero, and their sorts of things. But I think Senesi's one that sort of most fans are really behind. Free transfer, to be honest, I know there's a lot made about transfers and we need to spend more money. I don't believe in that. There's plenty of players that you can go and sign for cheap and they'll be absolutely excellent. So I don't believe in just go and spend money. I feel like actually I'd rather the club not spend that much money and use it on the wages rather than the other way around, because that's where we become unstuck. But that's another debate that we don't need to go into. But Senesi signing, Chris, obviously there were plenty made, and this kind of goes back to the point that we spoke about at the very start in terms of what have we learned. Maybe we just realized that actually when the bigger clubs actually try to go and actually go and make a beeline for a player, it just proves how difficult it is for these players to turn around and say no, whether it be wages, whether it be living in London, whatever it may be. I've seen all over ex-Bournemouth fans going, why would you turn down playing for Bournemouth and go to Spurs? And I'm like, I don't understand how that's even a question. But this just proves that you can just go out there. If you was actually a serious club, i.e. Spurs were serious, they can go and sign these players from good players from good clubs. So this one was a free transfer, but just in general, to be able to increase their own level. What do you think on the whole Senesi part? And for anyone that hasn't seen it, the stats that have come out about him, particularly for through balls, completed the most from any defender last year in the Premier League. He actually completed more than him on his own, completed more than Tottenham Hotspur as a club in the Premier League, which is just absolutely madness. I didn't believe that this was true. I had to go and just see if I see it from a few sources, but he completed more through balls than Tottenham Hotspur in the entirety of last year. Chris, what do you make of Spurs signing Senesi?
It's a good signing for me. And we say about all the other big squads, like I think Man City one year needed to go and boost they needed new wing backs. So they went and spent like £200 million on two left backs, two right backs, but all of them who could have started for most teams in the Premier League as well. So I think now that we're having these options at the back, I don't mind it too much, because I'm hoping that we're starting with a defence, overhauling that, and then we're going to be looking at midfielders and strikers as we move on, if they're not in the pipeline already. But it's good that we're hopefully going to have centre-back partnerings. If we do get Van Hecke, I imagine that will mean that Romero's going, because there's no way we can have all these centre-backs and they're all going to get minutes, and you can't keep them all happy. I imagine that it would see that Romero would go, probably Dragusin will go. So I think you're going to have Van der Ven, Senesi, Van Hecke, and Danso as our sort of four main centre backs, which is, for me, it's a solid. You've got some solid partnerships there, so I like it. It's another player that obviously De Zerbi likes, and again, I imagine the reason why we can bring these players in is because they're looking at how De Zerbi plays and the style that he plays, and they probably like that. And he's obviously had a chat with them and said, "This is what I plan on doing. Do you want to come for it?" And that's probably what sold them. You've not got a director of football trying to sell the club's ambition. It's the manager actually saying, "This is what I do. This is how I play. You're going to fit straight in with that. I like attacking football. I like to play like that." So it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that the director of football is not the one trying to sell this club to players, because I think we could be in a whole heap of trouble. We'll come on to that in a little while. But Adam, what do you think about Senesi? Obviously, he plays on the left centre back. You've obviously got Van der Ven there. It's been mentioned in the chat. I think Adrian brought it up, and I think you guys have already mentioned it as well. I could very much see a world in which you possibly play Van der Ven at left back, Senesi if Van Hecke does come in, and Porro kind of just gets licensed to absolutely bomb forward, and he kind of just sits in there with those three centre halves. But signing of Senesi, what were your thoughts when this went through? There was a lot in the fan base thinking maybe he might end up going Liverpool because of the Areola links, but it's been pushed through now. It's all signed. What do you think about him signing for Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, I was really worried actually at one stage. When Areola went to Liverpool, I honestly thought there was going to be a hijack on. Honestly thought they were going to take him from us, because he could get into that Liverpool backline and he'd be a starter. He could get in a Chelsea backline, he'd be a starter. This is a very good signing. This is a very, very good signing. A very, very technical player as well. He's not just going to help us defensively, he's going to help us offensively as well. Perfect for De Zerbi system. And De Zerbi likes these types of players. He's a similar player to Van Hecke. And if Van Hecke comes in as well, and you've got both players on right centre-back and left centre-back that can both do it, then I think that's really good business. And for the people that say, "Oh, well, he's free, he can't be that good," it doesn't. I'd rather spend 1p on a player if he's quality than spend 60 million on a player that I don't know anything about. Because it's not, for me, it's not about spending money. It's about spending money right. If you don't spend money right, it's pointless spending money. You know, you're not going to go to a rubbish restaurant and spend £100. For £100, you want something good. You know, you're not going to get bad food at a restaurant and then pay £100, are you? I believe that. I don't even know if that makes sense, actually, to be fair. But I don't believe that I think it's a very, very clever signing. Getting him on a free, I think is absolutely brilliant business. The fact that he said he only wants Spurs as well, that was brilliant. It's brilliant to hear. I loved it. De Zerbi wants him. I think he's going to be a massive asset for us. And I don't think he's coming in to be on the bench, by the way. And there's a lot of people saying that, he's going to be a backup to Van der Ven. I don't think so. I think they'll put Van der Ven out on the left, like you said, Luke, or he'll be a starter and Van der Ven will be on the bench, because Senesi is a very, very technically good footballer. And and if we're going to be playing out the back, who's better at playing out the back, Senesi or Van der Ven? And he gets goal contributions as well. These two will be fighting for a place. I don't think it's set in stone that Van der Ven's going to be a starting left centre back. I honestly do. I think he's that good. I think, Bournemouth got 6th and he was player of the year. He's a very, very good player. I think what we've done is very, very clever. I think it's really good signing.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that's not what I said. What I said was, I don't think going and spending 60, 70 million on players like Richarlison, it's not going just spending money works. That's not how it works. Sancho has just literally been released from Manchester United. They spent 80 million pound on him. How good was he? It doesn't just mean that just because you spend money, it's gonna work out. And the other thing as well, and we've all mentioned it already, in regards to building the right squad, how much you can do. If Spurs were to have spent, Van Hecke, the rumour is that he's going to be about 40, 50 million pound. If we would have gone and spent that money twice on 2 different centre backs, now that doesn't leave you money to go and improve the front line. That doesn't give you money to go and improve the left back, the left winger or the right winger or the ball playing midfielder. And I think that's another thing that we need to consider as a fan base, is that we're not going to go and spend 50, 60 million on every single signing and every single position we need. So we need to be clever with who we sign and how we make. And then when you get to a point where your squad is very, very good and balanced, you can then go and spend the big money on the big players to take you to another level. And unfortunately, there's a team that's very, very close to us that have done that with the signing of like Rice and things like that. This man would be unbelievable for Spurs. I feel like he could really be the difference. Ash, I feel like Senesi is a player that you would really, really like. The way that he feels to me like a very similar player to Romero in terms of how cultured he is on the ball. But what do you think in terms of Spurs trying to progress, trying to get better, obviously building on what was a disastrous 2 seasons in terms of 17th? What do you make of this as a signing for Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, it's a top signing. And people are asking, did Senesi make Alex Scott look good? We're going to find out.
Sign them both.
We're going to find out because they're saying that because the way he used to punch through the lines and jump into the midfield, that would allow him to progress up the pitch a lot quicker. Do you know what I mean? So now he's not in the team. Let's see how he performs. Alex Scott obviously is a top player. I'm not going to take that away from him, but that was with the rhetoric, what people were saying, not what I'm saying. So, but going back to Senesi, yes, like most through balls from any centre back in the league. And the funny thing is, we've got him on a free. I just think at the moment, Premier League it's a mess. I'll be honest with you. It's an absolute mess. The reason why it's a mess is because Man City are about to pay 105 million, going up to 120 million on Anderson, right? Which hikes up the price for every single Premier League proven player. So you're looking at Adam Wharton, yeah? If Adam Wharton is at Crystal Palace and they see Anderson going for that type of money, guess what they're going to do? If Fernandes from West Ham, yeah, is going for 85 million in the Championship, I'm not saying he's going to go for that money, but if they're quoting that type of money, like these players, as good as they are, Alex Scott, 80 million, as good as they are, there are other players that aren't in the Premier League that can do something similar. And you guys spoke about it already. Spending smart, being smart. How many seasons have these players done it for? Alex Scott, respect to Alex Scott. He's only done it for 1 season. He's a young player. Let's see how he gets on in Europe. 2 games a week. Let's see how Bournemouth get on with a new manager, etc. Then you're looking at Fernandes, very tidy on the ball, etc. Is he 85 million? Going back to the point though, centre-back wise, because we've got a Prem proven centre-back and we have problems in progressing the ball in the final third and making progressive passes in general, that helps alleviate the pressure from our midfielders. A lot of the time, we'd have to see a midfielder drop into the back line to make a forward pass. That's why you see some of the players, their forward passes and progressive passes are kind of skewed because they're dropping back in between two centre-backs and passing it. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, your forward passes are going to look higher, e.g. Paulinho, and I'm sure you're going to speak about him in a bit. But we know that Paulinho, once he's in the midfield, he's not that type of player that looks to progress the ball. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to hurt teams and punch with like ferocity through the lines and find players that will get on a turn and etc. etc. So having a centre back that's able to do that helps massively. Do you know what I mean? And if you've got Van Hecke as well, it's like double threat because these guys, I call it angle bias. They don't really have it. They've got a low level angle bias, meaning they can hit diagonals into the channels. They don't need to shape and take an extra touch before they get onto their favorite foot to hit that, find that pop. They could hit it first time. So there's a Premier League gradient, and both of the centre backs, Senesi especially, he was one of the best Premier League centre backs last season, higher than Van Dijk in terms of gradients. This season, I think he's like, I've got the stats here somewhere. I forgot what position he is, but he's high up. He's in the top 25 of Premier League defenders. So that's the type of level centre back we're getting alongside. If we do get Van Hecke, which I believe we are, that's two good Premier League proven players, as you said already, for 50 million. Two. Do you know what I mean? And that improves our squad massively because playing out from the back, that's what Robert De Zerbi said. He said, we want to improve our attacking. We want to improve our chance creation. The way to do that is through improving 70% of the first phase, which means playing out from the back, your build up. And those two centre backs improve our centre back, are playing out from the back massively. Also, the availability of both of them as well. They've all played 30 plus games.
The only problem with that is that Solanke had an unbelievable record before he signed for us, and he's obviously got injured. But I completely agree.
But potentially something goes wrong, right? You've got Van der Ven that can come back in, or potentially Danso's played as a left-sided centre back, and then you've got again Van Hecke, like
Robertson,
so
Davies.
You've got options there, is what I'm saying. So even if one of them does come down, it's not the end of the world. But if I wanted to look for a negative, or not a negative, things to work on or concerns, I would say more recovery pace. I would say, but if you're reading the game better, then recovery pace shouldn't be a thing because the centre-back position is key, in my opinion. But aerially, that could be a room for concern because set pieces, we can be a little bit shaky, especially if the goalkeeper is not ultra commanding off his box. Kingsley's not too bad. It's not a massive concern. But again, you need your centre-backs to be aerially dominant. And they're not one of the top performers in the league in terms of winning their headers, winning their aerial duels. So that's something I was going to nitpick. Maybe even getting on a turn, that's something they can improve on as well.
It actually, other than obviously the pace element, Van der Ven needs to work on very similar items. He's not great in the air for someone who's 6'4" and absolutely huge. He's not brilliant in the air, and actually he's quick when he's running, but it's that mobility piece of being able to quickly shift from one side to another and get going. I think that's where, but again, I've always said this, particularly with the level that Spurs are at and the positions, centre back and centre midfield, it's absolutely key to who the partner is, how they complement each other, because you can have two unbelievably good players, but if they both do the same job, then they're not going to work together, and that doesn't bounce off well, that doesn't fit well. And I think particularly centre backs and centre midfielders, you need to make sure that we get it right. And I think that's the problem at Spurs. We just don't seem to get it right often enough. But obviously signing Senesi, he is, for me, is one of the best centre backs in the league. Take out the top sort of four clubs. For me, he's one of the best. So to get him on a free transfer, I think is top work. Van Hecke, I like him. I think he's a good player. I'm just 50 million with 1 year. again, I'm just worried. Not necessarily. I don't care what players cost, but I just look at the future proofing in terms of if we spend 50 on him, what does that leave us going forward? Like, are we going to get rid of Richarlison? Are we going to be able to get any money for him and all these other players? Are we not getting Savinho because that's a little bit out of the price range? And listen, it's all Spurs.
You're a proper Spurs fan. Your mentality, yeah? The way you worry, if you could hear yourself, yeah.
No, but it's true. And I said this all last year. I said this.
You're worried about Savinho not coming. Is that what you're worried about?
No. What I'm saying is, if the club have spent 50 on Van Hecke and then 60 on Savinho,
okay.
Where's this other money coming from? Where's the striker money coming from? Are we going to then get a ball playing midfielder?
I don't think we'll get everything, but I think at minimum we'll get a midfielder or winger, and like a winger will be Savinho and a striker. I think anything other than that is a bonus, but I just think, yeah, the centre-back situation, I think that's settled. But I wouldn't be too worried about where we're going to get the money. Obviously, they are gambling on the fact that we're going to move players on. But I think this window, there's money to be spent. I think the money will be spent. I think we will spend money because of the season that we have had. But it's just whether we spend it on the right players. Do you know what I mean? That's my issue. But, yeah, I wouldn't be too worried if, like, are we going to... You know, if you spend money on Van Hecke, 50 million, and 60 million on Savinho, we're not going to have enough for the other areas. I think striker wise, like I think the striker market, I don't know. I think it's kind of dry. I'll be real. I think there's better midfielders out there than there is strikers, and similar to white players, like attacking forwards. I think there's better attacking forwards than there is actual strikers. So that's, if I was a club, I'd be looking to spend my money there, not necessarily on the centre forward line, because lots of people are fans of like a Vlahovic, people like Ramos. I think those players are attainable, but I don't think they will hurt your pocket as much as the wide players. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think we're able to attain at least one midfielder alongside Savinho and Hecke, and still get a striker of decent level. Do you know what I mean? That's just my opinion, though.
No, but this is the key part to it, right? And a few people have already mentioned a few players that we was going to do this later on, but let's just go with it right now. Obviously, there's players that have left the building already. Basuma's left, Palhinha. There's conversations about that again. Massively split the fan base. Some are saying, "Job done, thank you, see you later, don't want you." Others are saying absolutely right, what Alan said as well, pivotal in being able to turn this around. I'm thinking some of the goals that he scored, when you look back now, were absolutely huge for Spurs. And if he wasn't around, would they have picked him up? And then Moani as well. Moani obviously looks like he's not coming back. I actually watched, just as a quick caveat, I watched the World Cup final the other day. It was on. I was watching it when Messi won it. Moani looked like an actual. I know he missed that massive chance against Martinez. He looked like a different person. Like, he was beating players. He had pace. He was strong. And I'm like, I haven't seen that Moani. Like, we must have loaned his brother or something. It's just looking. It's absolutely madness. But obviously, as we said, there's plenty of players that are going to go out the door. But in terms of players that have been linked and everything else, I completely agree with you, Ash. I think that the midfield market is absolutely key. Plenty are saying that we need more goals, we need more assists and everything else. And I just want to touch on it. I have said from day one that I think that Morgan Gibbs-White would absolutely transform Spurs. I thought he would under Frank. I still think he would now. I'm not saying it's realistic. I'm not saying it will happen. But Alan, would Morgan Gibbs-White be a needle mover, as the fan base tend to say? Would he be a needle mover for you if he was to come to Tottenham?
Yeah, 100%. When I thought we signed him, I was over the moon. I thought, yes.
Everyone thought we signed him. Everyone.
You know, I was ecstatic, mate, when I thought we signed him, and when it didn't go through, I was absolutely gutted. So, yeah, he would definitely change everything as in scoring goals as well. Like, you know, like Ash said, like, if you haven't got your number 9 scoring goals, you at least need your midfielders. We were relying on our defenders last season. We need our midfielders to come in with goals as well. You've seen all the top teams, their midfielders score lots of goals. It's always happened throughout Premier League history. Look at the Lampards, Gerrards. They came up. Sometimes you forgot what strikers they had that year because they were scoring so many goals. So it's very important to have goals all over the pitch. It is important, obviously, to get a striker in. Don't get me wrong. We need somebody that can score goals and somebody that's mobile, strong. You know, I'm not happy with Solanke and Richarlison. I just don't think they cut it at this level, the level that we want to be at anyway. Somebody said Richarlison on my channel once. They said Richarlison and Solanke ain't that bad to me. But they're not good enough for Spurs. And I went, but we finished 17th. So how good are they? Do you know what I mean? Like, where can they play then? Because they just played for 17th place Tottenham and they still weren't good enough. So yeah, for me, we definitely need a striker, definitely need a winger. Morgan Gibbs-White would be absolutely phenomenal signing. He can play in the 8 or the 10. So when people say, well, we've got Xavi, Kulu, Maddison for me is probably got a year or two left at Spurs. Kulu, I don't even know what's happening with him. He may not even come back. We don't know what's going on. Xavi's not going to be here until January, and he won't be at his best till about February, March, if he does, because we saw what happened to Maddison. It took him a long, long time. So Morgan Gibbs-White would be absolutely essential for us to get in somebody like that, regarding whether we can or not. Marinakis probably wouldn't be very happy with selling him to us. He does want to come to Spurs. He wouldn't have agreed terms and everything if he didn't want to come. I still believe he does want to be a Spurs player. I think if Nottingham Forest need money, they might sell him. But if they sell Elliot Anderson for 120 million, they're not going to need money, are they? So it's going to make it 10 times harder to buy him. They're not going to sell both of them.
This falls back into my other point, is that if, say, listen, this is all hypothetical, we don't know, but if Morgan Gibbs-White is the guy that you want to sign, that you think is the difference in your going to link all the attacking plays together, then you go and you do that early. You get that, you try to get that done as early as possible, because now if City do end up getting Elliot Anderson, you would expect that to be a massive blow on Spurs. And we've done this with Bournemouth last year, when it was like, oh, should we look at this? Should we look at signing these players? I think Scott was one mentioned, but they just received like 200 million for their backline. So they didn't need to sell any of their players. So I think this is all a key part of it, is that identifying the players that are really going to make the difference and going and getting them. As I say, I just find it funny that obviously we needed to improve loads of positions. I just feel like the attacking part has been the major part we need to fix at this moment in time. And we're actually just signing defenders. I don't think they're bad signings. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I just find it quite ironic that Spurs are going down that route. Ash, what do you think in terms of Morgan Gibbs-White? Do you think that he could be a difference maker at Spurs?
Yeah, he's a difference maker, but I think in football you have opportunities and windows, and you need to know where you are in the food chain, respectfully. So we are a big club, but when I talk about opportunities, I think last season was the opportunity because we had Champions League football. And we were using that to attract certain caliber of players. And I had a feeling that, we might not be in Champions League the next season. So you have to go all out now. And if that means that you have to break your transfer records that season, you might have to do that and pay the extra 5-10 million, overpay essentially for the player that you want, if you're planning for long term and they're going to make a big impact in the squad. And I just felt with Morgan Gibbs-White, there was an opportunity when we thought we had signed him, everything was signed, and they pulled it out because we hit the number on the nose and it was a bit dodgy, that I would have done some compensation. I would have said, look, here's an extra 5 or extra 10 to get it over the line, and let's work on the add-ons. Do you know what I mean? So then if he has a certain amount of games, or if we finish this high up, he scores us X amount of goals, Champions League Prem, the players are, do you know what I mean? It happens all the time, like people do tussles with players all the time. We've done it with Gareth Bale. Like, we were cheeky, kept moving the bar post, and Harry Kane with Man City. Do you know what I mean? Playing hardball, hard-nosed. So we've known to be doing it with other clubs. So I'm not surprised that it did happen, because it's just the way our club is. The way we operate is slightly different to other clubs. Morgan Gibbs-White for me now would look at another club that's in Champions League, in my opinion. So Aston Villa, if they're going to lose one of their marquee players, in Morgan Rogers, I personally think he would be the replacement for Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, people will argue with me and say, no, but we're Tottenham, we're a bigger club. But on the players' end, it might be a better draw because he might think Champions League football, I want to play under the lights. This is my career. That's what I'm playing for. I thought I'd get that at Spurs. And now there was talk about, obviously, him playing a deeper role. Maybe that's what Frank wanted. And they were trying to sell that to him. That he might go to Villa and they might say, look, we want to play you in the 10. We want you to replace Morgan Rogers. You could be the face of Spurs. I mean, of Villa. Do you know what I mean? So for me, like I said, you have an opportunity window. Like you said as well, Luke. First signing, act fast, be decisive. It goes back to my Eze thing, you know what I mean? I know that's done and dusted, but there's certain players and there's a certain window that you have to be aggressive and get those deals done quickly. And I thought with certain players, we kind of left it alone, walked away from the deal, tried to be smart and say, yeah, all right, this is our price, turn our phone off and then walk away. And then we end up getting stung. That's my opinion. It's not just Eze, because people argue, oh, he was never coming to Spurs. But there's other players that we've done that to, and I've seen us miss out, not just on that, on like wages, etc. Do you know what I mean? Just not going that extra mile. That's Spurs for me. That's what we've been about. So yes, Morgan Rogers would make a hell of a difference, and there's no one in the Premier League that would, I think, in terms of like scoring goals and creating, he's the closest thing that we will get to a complete midfielder. People would love Wharton, but I just think Wharton is going to Liverpool. Liverpool have been looking at him for a long time, and they need a number 6, if that's what you want to call it. They need a progressive deep line playmaker. They need that's what they want. Similar to us, yeah. They've had issues in that position, and I think they're more likely to spend that type of money where they go and spend a good 70, 80 million, 90. Spurs might break our record this season in the midfielder. We might do the marquee signing and go all out. But are we going to do 80 million? I don't know, guys. I don't know. That's the reason why I've got doubts on players like your Whartons. Because like I said at the start, if they're quoting Alex Scott 80 million, you know, Bournemouth will say, look, we're looking to sign him to a new deal and the release clause will be 75 million. The Premier League, well, it's done. It's done. In terms of getting the players that you need to improve, like, forget it. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I stand with Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he's a fantastic... I said in my video in 2023, I made a video, Maddison replacements, just in case we didn't get Maddison, because that was the year that we were linked to Maddison, and I really wanted him. But I didn't want to suffer that heartache. So I made a video about alternatives, right, straight away. So I looked at Morgan Gibbs-White as one of them. Lee Kang-in was one at the time as well, because I thought he would be a great successor to Son, and how he plays is similar to like a Bernardo Silva, in my opinion. That's something that we don't have, like someone that can bring the defense to attack, but he uses it through dribbles, and centrally he knits it together, can play wide, can play in the middle, can play attacking, can do a bit of everything. So he was a guy I also looked at. But going to another player I looked at was Eze back in 2023 as well. So those are the 3 players I thought, if we don't get Maddison, these are the guys I want. But we managed to get Maddison over the line. I was thankful. This season, moving on, this new era of Lewis children, if that's what you want to call them, they want to make they're saying they want to make their mark. They're different from the previous era. They're going back and forth, blaming the era, like whatever in it. Just show us in it, because it's easy to say, but it's not as easy to execute. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Gibbs-White on a long run.
No, there's. I think it's pure frustration with Spurs. Like, there are so many players that you can go and get, and you just, as I say, we're just not confident that Spurs will go and spend that money. I do think it's difficult. I think the Premier League does bring with itself its own extortionate money. The fact that so many clubs over the last probably 2-3 years, there's so many clubs that have played for the first time in Europe. They're bringing in this income. They're bringing in money that they probably won't have. And then when you also factor in, like, your teams like Palace, for instance, go and winning 3 trophies in 2 years, knowing that I think it's probably well within English clubs' expectations is that anyone that finishes in a Conference League place should probably win the Conference League. Whoever the strongest English club is should win that as a standard. So you're going and winning European trophies, albeit at a lesser level, but still winning it, is unbelievable. So all these sorts of players can go and play a decent level of football, even if it's sort of like a stepping stone onto what comes next. We're not going to go on for too much longer because obviously it's all just around signings and hypotheticals and everything else at this moment in time. But in terms of players that we're linked to, Alan, I know that you put out loads of content around players that we're linked to, players we should sign, and Ash, you do something similar on that as well. What sort of players, and I don't just mean, like, as we've said, Morgan Gibbs White, we know would be massive. Is there any sorts of signings where you just think that would be a smart signing? He would actually change the way we are, or anything like that? I'm just naming off some ones that we're linked with. You've got Nico Gonzalez from Man City.
Literally going to say him.
We know about the Van Hecke stuff.
No.
Chevalier's come out today in terms of the goalkeeper. I'm going to butcher his name, but the ex-Dortmund, is he still with Dortmund? Guirassy as the striker, Verbruggen, all of these players, Alex Scott, they've all been mentioned. But is there any sorts of players that you think, yeah, actually he would be very, very different and be able to change the way that Spurs are operating? So, yeah, who do you think that Spurs should be looking at?
You can literally go to Manchester City and take half their squad that they don't want, because you've got players like Marmoush who's not getting game time and he wants game time. He would be an absolute beast of a number 9 for us. It'd be brilliant. Obviously, you got the Savinho on the left-hand side. You can get Nico Gonzalez. I think he's a really good footballer. He's only on 75 grand a week as well. So you can afford his wages. You can afford the price tag. He'd probably be on for about 60 mil as well. This guy's saying Aklush, very good technical player as well. What was missing up front, especially when Simmons wasn't playing, was technicality. We haven't got technical players. And that's another reason for not many through balls, for not many chances created. We haven't got players to do that. So we do need more. Like, that's what we're talking about Morgan Gibbs White, because he creates, he makes things happen. And that's the sort of players that we need. And there's so many out there, but you've got to remember, every sign is a risk, like, especially if you buy him aboard. So you could spend 80 million on Aklish, whatever, and he comes in, he might not take to the pace of the league, he might not get on with the players, he might not take on his instructions very well. You can buy a proven player and he may not play well in our system. But there's so many players out there that, like for me, like players like Thiago from Brentford, he's had one good season, so that would be a risk because he's only played one good season, but he's a good finisher. Like, he's proven a good finisher. There's Krupi from Bournemouth. I think he's a young player, so we have to be careful with that sort of signing as well. But he'll be good on our side. Harry Wilson, you can get for free as well. You know, he scored goals, got assists last season for Fulham. But again, is he another like Clint Dempsey? He'll come to Spurs and he won't be so good. There's so many, but I do trust De Zerbi to get it right. I do trust to get the right players in. Like, so far so good with Senesi, Van Hecke links and Savinho links. I think they are all going to change things for Spurs. People are saying like they want to get rid of Tell, and I just want to talk about this for a second, because let's say we did. That means we've Tell
route. It's gone down the Tell route.
But yeah, no. But if we do get rid of Tell, we've got no left-sided players. If we bring Savinho in and he got injured, again, we're in the season where we've got no left-sided players. Xavi's injured, Odegaard's injured, Mawani's going. Like, we would have no one to play there again, and I don't want Richarlison on the wings. I don't want him there. So, like, we honestly have to think about building this squad, but cleverly, not just throwing money at certain players for certain positions and then thinking, oh, wait a minute. Oh, we haven't got this position now. Last year, we were so short with left-hand side. We were so short striker range because both our strikers are injury prone. We didn't have a left back. Now we've got like 4. So on 1 game a week, we had 1 left back for 2 games a week, and we've got 4 for 1 game a week. So make that make sense. And I
have to agree on the left back. I think it's hilarious.
But there's so many good players out there, but you have to get it right. You have to get it right. And players like, for me, like Marmoush, Morgan Gibbs White, Savinho, all them sorts of players will change things for me. But I don't know where we're going to go with it, though. Like, I'd love to get Belieber in. I think Belieber's quality. He could be attainable if you put up the money. So, but
Yeah, but
What do you think,
still
Ash? Who do you think we should get in, mate?
still a lot of money. Ash, over to you, my man. Who do you think? And you're going to come up with some names that nobody's ever heard of, I have no doubt. But what players do you think Spurs should be looking at?
I just think it's the obvious. Like, we need a ball progressor. That is the main key ingredient we're missing. Someone that can play a little bit deeper as a playmaker and take the ball from defense to attack. Equally, we need someone that can hold on to possession, that doesn't give it away easily. I feel like the midfield right now, there's a lot of ball carriers, and with the ball carriers, there's a lot of risk in that because the decision making in the right positions are costly for us, and we lose the ball, it comes back, and then we never hold on to the ball in the final third, where we kind of let teams break them down. So we need someone that is secure in possession, in my opinion, can control the tempo. What do I mean by that? Speed it up at times when the game's quite slow and stagnant. And then when the game's hectic and chaotic, they can slow it down, even though the ball's stung at them at 100 miles per hour. So their first touch would need to be good, as well as their first time passing. I think first time passing can make, the game move a lot quicker. There's too many times when I've seen a player take too many touches and then the whole move's broken down. And I'm like, that could have been a counter-attack. Equally, off the ball, we need players that are able to run towards it at an angle. Do you know what I mean? And then they create that. There's so many times I've seen Spurs on the ball and everyone's running away from it. I'm like, but we need someone to come short. So I need a player that's not going to go hiding at all. There's too many players that go hiding in big moments where we need to, not even just big games, just like your average game. And I'm like, Rob, we need someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Do you know what I'm saying? So that is quite a few attributes that I'm talking about. So personality, bravery, and then vision, the eye to see that pass as well before it's even happened, to see a run. Do you know what I mean? Because some players are making runs, but the balls ain't coming. Like, I've seen players run into positions and I'm like, bro, deliver. And sometimes players just don't believe in their ability or have the confidence that they feel they can execute that pass. So that could be an overhead pass into the channel. That could be a switch. That could be a ball with a lot of pace in it or the right weight on it. That's what we're missing, in my opinion, accompanied with a player that can take it on the half turn under pressure. Because I always feel like when we're in possession and the centre backs have it, that pass into that midfield, there's about 4 or 5 players. You always see it. It's like a 4-4-2, but there's about 4 or 5 players surrounding a player. Now, the players I think suit that is one that Alan's mentioned already, Nico Gonzalez. He's a bit conservative though, so I wouldn't call him a playmaker. But in terms of like being secure on the ball, not losing it, passing accuracy, like elite in my opinion.
Steady Eddie, isn't he? In that
Steady Eddie, yeah, controls the tempo, makes it nice. That could help Spurs be more of a possession team. If I want someone to punch through the lines, to dictate and just disrupt low blocks and do like an Adam Wharton equivalent, for me, it has to be Stiller. Everyone speaks about Stiller. It has to be Stiller. And the reason why is because there's not many of those archetypes out there. That's why they're so hard to come across, and that's why they're so expensive. Now, if you want a player that does a bit of both, where they can get the ball in a half turn, take it under pressure, beat the man, but sometimes can switch the play it to channels, I reckon Kone can do that to a good level. Do you know what I mean? I think Manu Kone from Roma, he's that kind of level of player where he gets the ball. And I saw it against us when we played them. I was like, bro, how come Roma keep switching the play? It was him. They're like, you touch on one side, and then they would pick it out to the other side. And I remember they destroyed us. And Roma was, and I was like, bro, we need them in field, man. Like, that's what we need. So I just think those are the type of players, in my opinion, that are most important. Obviously, you want your midfielders to be goal scoring, and those 2 midfielders I mentioned, they're not very goal scoring, but they all played. And I know people don't like this because they want a specialized position, but they're able to play the 6 and the 8 and the 10 in their careers. They've done that. So I think now PSG are doing that, where Vitinha, you got Neves, you know what I mean? They're able to just receive the ball in any area of the pitch and progress it and be fluid and be like, okay, I'm going to be the 6. Now you be the 8. Okay, you could be the 8 and I'm going to be the 6. Okay, you're the 10. but you can be the 8 and I'll be the like, do you know what I mean? And then that drags defenders or the players that are man marking them, because it's a man marking system at the moment. Like everyone's like, you heard the Zerbi saying, it's man to man, it's man to man. 1, 2, 3, 4, like Count Dracula. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's talking about.
I thought Zerbi was in the room then.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what he's like, bro. But yeah, we need players like that alongside what do you call it? A Morgan Gibbs White style. I think on the flanks, I would take a lot of people spoke about this guy already. Azuli from Real Betis. I think he looks like a demon on the flanks. I know it's not Prem proven, but I just think, like I said, the Premier League market is crazy. But if we had to get Savinho, obviously you got Savinho on the right. You could do the right or the left. You could do either flank. I think he could play in that pocket in the 10 as well, personally. But he could play left or right. And Azuli, he predominantly played on the left, but he has played on the right in his career. But he adds the goal threat, what we're missing. And my fear is that Spurs are going to have too many of the same profile, same type of, architect of player, where they're just a dribbly type, try to beat their man. Do you know what I mean? Well, I think we need a bit more variety. So talking about Alan's Tell, for example, Tell's he's like another inside forward, which I think we need. I think we do need an inside forward, someone that's going to run on the shoulder, maybe beat one man, but they need to be prolific at it, like a Harvey Barnes. I know people won't rate him, but he's got 17 GA last season. Do you know what I mean? Harvey Barnes has got 17 GA last season, bro. He's got like 10 goals in the league and 7 goals in the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? I'm not talking about I think it's more than that. I think that's 17 goals and an assist. I haven't even counted the assists. I don't know how many assists he's got. But like from your wide player, I don't mind that running behind. And that's the level between. I think with Tell, he needs, like, if he was playing at Bournemouth and he was a starter, it's different. I just don't think he's going to be a starter at Spurs to score as many goals as we would like as fans to see. All right, he's going to be our starting left winger option. Coming off the bench, it's good to have, and I understand the whole squad building thing, but we need a player that could come in right now and bang goals. We can't have a risk on Tell. And I personally think Tell will look better as a shadow striker or just off the centre forward, running in behind, as opposed to him being out wide all the time. Because him, in terms of like controlling his possession, like when we're playing out from the back, is he good at build-up? Is he good at has that physical side of him where he can hold it up and let us progress the pitch? I think he's improved on it, but I wouldn't say that's one of his strengths, if that makes sense. In terms of like, if you double up and Tell, it's a wrap. You can maybe beat his one man, 1-on-1 v1. He's not too bad, but 2v1, you can't do it. I want Tell as close to goal as possible. That's how a pro platform him, in my opinion. And he needs minutes and he needs seasons to do that, to get to that level. Krupi is the same age, if not younger than him. And look at the level. Do you understand? So if I'm looking at a young player, Krupi is my example. Do you get it? So whereas Tell, he's not quite that level where Krupi is. Right? Do you know what I mean? So I just think he needs more minutes. He needs a bit more time. And I don't know if Tottenham, or the Tottenham fans especially, because he needs to be strong. I've heard loads of players say it now. Van der Ven said he wanted to stay in his yard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I've heard Gallagher say, "Raw, I didn't want to come out." I said, the fans are crucifying me. My confidence went all the way down. So they hear it. In fact, they're human beings at the end of the day. So if they're not performing at a top level, they're going to go, Bob. They're going to move.
Yeah, 100%. I love the Bournemouth Tell move. I think that's superb. Like, obviously, I don't know how they like with loan players and being able to play them and nurture them, but I think if Tell was at Bournemouth, I think that would be a great match made in heaven. I've just had a look at Harvey Barnes' stats, and he's got 22 GA this year.
Newcastle weren't even that good this year.
No. He's got what's he got? Six assists and 16 goals. Got 7 Premier League goals, 3 FA Cup goals, and 6 Champions League goals. That is a sort of option. No, and that's the sort of option that you want, like, to have. You know, when we talk about squad players and options, he's just someone that just gets goals, runs in behind, as you said, versatile, can play on both wings. Homegrown's an added bonus as well. So there are so many players out there, but I do agree. I think there are certain players that we're going to have to look outside of the Premier League, because you can't go and blow your whole budget on just Premier League players because everyone is just so expensive. One thing I do want to ask you both, though, while you was just discussing it, we've obviously, it looks like the Van Hecke deal is done, and we would expect that there are a lot of changes that are going to take place in the forward line. I'm going to use 4 positions. You've obviously got the 10, I think, is kind of covered because you've got so many wingers that can kind of play in the 10. So we're not going to use that. But a sort of progressive passing midfielder, a right winger, because of the issues that Kulusevski's had, doesn't look like we don't really know about him. Kudos is obviously there, but he has obviously had his own injuries. So you've got a ball progressing midfielder, a right winger, a left winger, or a striker. Out of those 4 positions, I'll start with you, Alan. What do you think is the most pivotal that Spurs absolutely have to address in this summer? If we went into the season and we had Solanke and Richarlison as a strike force, but we did, for instance, pick up a Morgan Gibbs-White or a progressive midfielder, is that enough for you, or where do you sort of fit with that?
It'd be hard to go in a season with them 2 as your options. It'd be very hard.
It's going to be hard anyway, right? But if we go in a left winger and we haven't got anyone there, we don't sign Savini, like, it's going to be hard for any of these. But I just want to know where people are at in terms of what they think we absolutely do. And also, as I said, let's take into consideration, I agree we probably need a better striker, but who is that better striker that comes in and we know is going to be at the level we need them to be?
I think Ash is right. I think, let's say if the worst happens and we did have a Richarlison and Solanke, if we don't have that ball playing midfielder, then they're not going to get the ball. So if we did buy a striker and he didn't get the ball, it'd be pointless having a striker. So I think Ash is right. I think a ball playing midfielder would probably be the most important out of all of this. Somebody that can get their foot on the ball, dictate games, like he said, speed it up, slow it down, get their foot in as well. You know, can do everything in midfield. I think that would be the one thing, if we could only sign one player. Like if my dream, I know it can't happen, but Bruno Guimaraes like ticks all of those boxes. Like for experience, everything, he ticks all those boxes for me. Like I know that's impossible, but I'm just saying, like, but he would be the dream if you could sign somebody. Like if you could sign one player, that would be the guy I'd pick probably.
Zerbi agrees with me. Zerbi agrees.
Absolutely. There's not many. I don't think there's many fans out there that could really disagree with that. I think Bruno Guimaraes is absolutely.
He's probably one of the best in Europe. Probably.
When you really look at that Newcastle team, to have a midfield of Bruno and Tonali and struggle like they have, it is. I know, like, you've got other positions, rightly so, where players are not good enough. But we've just mentioned Barnes, Gordon. Obviously, he's had his issues, but Voltemada. But those 2 in midfield, like, if you know when people used to say, like, we're stood in the tunnel and we've got them 2, we think we'd do all right. Like, you must be looking at Tonali and Bruno going, like, we should be all right here. Like, regardless of who we're playing against, these 2 are very, very good.
And Osula's a quality player as well.
Osula's, he's got some great
he's
goals.
Quality. He's a really good player. He's young as well.
He is, Jack. Yeah, he was linked to Frankfurt, wasn't he? They thought he was going to end up signing for Frankfurt, but it got cancelled at the last minute. Ash, at those 4 positions, is it the ball progressive midfielder that you think we need the most out of them 4? That means no Savinio, means no right winger / Kudos. They've been links to Kudos moving in the middle, means no striker. And then also, as you mentioned, when you factor in, let's say Romero goes, you have actually got Senesi and Van Hecke who are able to progress the ball a little bit better anyway going forward.
I don't know how much of an impact that's going to make on the team if the midfielder are able to receive the ball in a higher position. Is that enough? Or do we need a player that can jump in between Senesi or receive it from Senesi and Van Hecke? Because they're going to be able to switch to play. They were, like I said, the most through balls, first time passes, inside passes, which means you've got your outside passes, which means you're passing it to your winger. Inside passes means you're passing it into the midfield or to the forwards. Both Van Hecke and Senesi have the most inside passes in the league. So that means a big percentage of their passes are through the middle. Through Frank, we had no midfield progression. Zero. And every heat map, not every heat map, every passing map, it was a U. It was like fullback, centre back, goalkeeper,
It's embarrassing.
back to Porro, who fit to Kudos. Do you know what I'm saying? Kudos go down the wing and try and cross. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. A lot of the time it didn't. But there was no progression in the middle. So we became super predictable in terms of our attack. So with that being said, I do think the wide positions, because we're lacking goals, I think goals are a massive problem. I'm tempted to say a wide player that can create and score goals. I don't know if that's allowed. Am I creating a new position? Because I think we've got too many.
We need a player that can defend, attack, score goals. He can run it.
No, because
goal.
I think we've got too many wingers that are vertical, if that makes sense. So they get the ball, they dribble it, they beat their man 1v1. That's what they want to do, or they want to run in behind. There are playmakers that play out wide, but sometimes they drift. You know, like what Xavi Simmons would do, but on a level where they're scoring goals at an insane rate and they're creating at an insane rate. Remember under Ange, and we were linked to one of his players at Celtic. And he played on the left.
Jota.
I can't remember. Jota. Yeah.
Jota,
do you remember Jota's creativity and his goals from that? For me, that's the ideal type of player that we need on that left-hand side. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I would value that position because to me, like, you can't really replace Son. You can't really replace a Son or a Kane, but you can fill in the gaps through different archetypes, through different profiles. So I mean, that's what I would do. Do you know what I mean? And that's me gambling on those centre backs, progressing the play, stepping into midfield, winning the ball high up. Do you know what I mean? Doing what like the Romero does. Like Ben Hecke does that. He's the stopper. Again, Senesi does that. He wins the ball high up. Do you know what I'm saying? And then he progresses the ball. So, like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't think there's a right answer. I was just interested to know. I just think that actually, when you look at it, the progressive ball playing midfielders is probably the most flooded market out of the lot at this moment in time. There's a few players we could probably rattle off, and you already did. Ash started naming a few players that we could probably bring in. On the wingers, I think that there is a good amount, but there's slightly less. And then I think the strikers is almost like rocking all shit. Like, that is the one where there just isn't enough of at this moment in time. So do we have to get our goals elsewhere and kick that can down further down the line? But it does then mean that Richarlison is probably staying as a Spurs player yet again for another year, when the whole Spurs, or most of the Spurs fan base, think that he wasn't good enough 3 years ago. So, and this is the problem. This is what I always say about transfer windows. It's okay saying we'll wait till the next one. It's okay saying we'll wait till the next one. But eventually it catches up with you, because then you don't just need to get one or two players. You need 6, 7, 8, 9s. And that's our problem. We didn't go and rectify. If we'd have gone and done a left winger, say, in January, we now won't be needing a left winger now. So therefore we could focus elsewhere. And I think this is the problem. We always say we're not going to get it all done. We never get enough done. And then the next window, we still haven't got enough done.
No,
and that just
100%. I think getting blonde, blue-eyed Gallagher, I can't remember his name. Getting Conor Gallagher, boy wonder. He's the boy wonder. I think that's what crippled us, in my opinion. That signing alone, I feel like that kind of slowed us down, because that 50 million, essentially, with that 200 grand wages, could have gone on the wing position. Al-Khalouche, I think, will go to PSG. I don't think he'll go to Tottenham, because I know they're getting rid of the Korean kid who I just mentioned earlier, Lee. They're getting rid of Kang Lee. Yeah. He's going to Atletico Madrid. Yeah. So they're going to need a replacement. And I think they've been looking at Al-Khalouche for a long time. Same time when we had agreed deal with him, like personal terms, that was all settled, no problems. But we just didn't pull the trigger because apparently we didn't want to panic buy, but then I don't know, they got like it's so crazy, my brother. Like, so I just think, and we had so many of his type. We had ball carriers, we had players that were gonna press aggressively, because that's what he does. He presses aggressively, he ball carries, and he's meant to have goals to him. I think that's meant to be the difference between maybe him and Assar, for example. But if we look at Sar's stats compared to Conor Gallagher's stats, and if you look at their minutes, you'll see that Sar's actually got 4 goals and 2 assists in less minutes than Conor Gallagher, who's got 1 goal and 1 assist. He's meant to be the more experienced player. So make that make sense. Do you know what I mean? And now we're going to force to sell Sar. So loads of players are like, well, fans, sorry, we're saying Sar's not good enough. But you're selling, again, the man that's not good enough, that's younger, and you're keeping the one that's done less in a Spurs shirt. I'm hoping that he gets better, because for me, Conor Gallagher can't progress the ball, meaning he can't be in the 6. And I don't think he's good in the middle third either. So I don't think he's a good enough 8. I think he's got to be an attacking 8 at most, or a 10. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. Maybe in a 10 he could work, because he's a box crasher. We've seen it at Chelsea. We've seen it at Crystal Palace in the 10, or right 8 at 10. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
West Brom as well. There's some examples. So you could hope that he comes good, but we just know that there's better in that position. And if we went and bought the money on the right wing or the left wing, I think the Atletico Madrid player that came from Atalanta that everyone was moaning about, Lookman, even that would have helped, I think, a bit more. I think we would have got a bit more output from Lookman, even though some people might not like him, might think he's not good enough. I just think a little bit more output there. I think we would have got a bit more than what we got with Conor Gallagher, in my opinion. So yeah.
But that goes back to my point, right? Where if you would have told Tottenham fans once we signed Gallagher, we weren't getting anybody else, I don't think many Spurs fans would be like, yeah, I get where you're coming from there. Yeah, that probably, like, everybody thought if we get Gallagher, we would get someone else.
There would have been more people at the protest. They timed Gallagher the night, was it the day before or on the day? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was like the day before the protest. They said, yeah, Conor Gallagher announced. Guys, do you know what I mean? That's what happened. And everyone got hoodwinked. I was like, yeah, stop protesting. Get behind the lads. This is not the time to be doing marches. This is not the time. And then obviously that man said, oh, don't worry. When the season's ended, we're going to do our marches. I said, brother, come on. No one's going to do a protest at the end of the season. Let's be real. So it was just that, yeah, it is what it is, man. Like they do this, and look, we're getting taken advantage of. We're fans, where we've got a different type of loyalty to the club. We love our club. We don't want to say anything against our own club, because that's who we support, right?
Yeah, 100%. But let's see, because they promised it in the summer. They said in January we'll go big. In January, they said they couldn't because it was January, so they'll go big in the summer. The 2 signings that they've made in Robertson and Senesi, I think, are a very, very good start. If they get Van Hecke over the line, again, good, really solid start. But I think it's the attacking third that's really going to make the difference. I did mention before we come on, I don't even know who this person is for me, so I'm going to let you 2 answer first. But
yeah, who's your signing? What position do you think we need to improve?
I think Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he is the difference, personally.
But if he's not available,
if he's not available, then I think I'd probably go with a ball. No. To be honest, I'd probably go with a winger. But I think
your goals. You want goals.
I think we need a GA merchant. I think that's what we need. I think.
Okay.
I understand what people want to have better build up. I think Maddison will give you better build up. I feel that the 2 centre backs will, because let's not forget, I know that there's a lot of people that criticise Romero and don't like him, and I understand the reasons why 100%. But Spurs looked, from an attacking point of view, Spurs looked a far better team when he played, because of his ability to break the lines, and we didn't have that anywhere else. And I think that you're going to almost have that twice, which I think it'd be interesting to see how that operates. Does that operate together? Like, I wouldn't want a Romero playing left centre back with Romero, because I'm not sure how it'd work. But from an attacking point of view, I like that. I think that they're both good players. But I just feel like we need someone like Harvey Barnes is almost the sort of perfect sort of player, right? Where you go, he's going to give 100%. He's going to get you a few goals. He's going to get you a few assists. Say he gets you 12, 13 goals from left wing, a goal and assist from left wing. That's sort of what we need. Like if you've got 2 or 3 players picking up 12, all of a sudden that's 30, 40 goals coming. That's not including your centre backs. That's not including the odd goal here from another wing or whatever. So I think that we need GA. I think that's imperative at this moment in time. I think, as I said, Maddison, I think there's a few factors. I think De Zerbi's football will create more chances. I think Maddison being there will create more chances. And I also think that with having a good solid base, I think those defenders will be able to create a bit more space for players who might not be great on the ball when pressured. They will be a little bit better on the ball. Højbjerg, I think, is a great example here where if you pressed Højbjerg, he was almost terrible on the ball. But actually, if you gave him space, he's brilliant at passing, which is ironically really strange. But I feel like we create so much space in the way we set up passing to each other that there's always more options and always more space. So yeah, I'd probably go with a winger that scores goals and gets assists personally.
We're linked to Somerville, aren't we? We're linked to Somerville. Obviously, Savinho's a big one.
I'm not sure about Somerville.
What, Somerville or Savinho?
I think one of the reasons why we want Savinho, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think Van der Ven might play left back and he might come into a midfield 3. And I think Savinho's job will be to hold the width on the left. And I think that Porro's will be to hold the width on the right. And I think that then your Porro's staying. I think Porro will be one of his main men.
You don't think
he's already come out and said that he wants him to stay? He said he's not selling him. Yeah, he's already said he's not selling him.
I hear it. The Zerbi doesn't want to lose him. But I mean, if Man City, for example, like Real Madrid were interested, but if Man City said like, oh, we didn't get Livramento for like, because Newcastle said 80 million, and they're like, right, we still need a right back. Let's go for Porro, and they dropped 60 million. Do you think Spurs should be like, nah, reject it? Or do you think Spurs should take that 60 million?
I can understand why people might say like Spence could replace him, but then the argument will still be who is your backup to Spence? Like so it's okay saying like, okay, Porro 60 million, but you then need to go and sign a right back. How much is that right back? Is he going to be able to do what Porro does? Is it? Do you know what I mean?
Probably not. It'd probably be like a Coyotes type, like an outside, like, you know, up and down wing back or right back.
So how much is Coyote going to cost? He's going to cost you 40.
Like 40, 50, yeah. Because that's the market. That's the market. Unless you go to Palistra, who plays in Serie A, he's like one of the top up and coming fullbacks. Then yeah, it's going to be tough pickings. Palistra is quite good at inverting and doing the whole crossing from inside. But he's not a Porro level though. I don't think.
If he, I don't know. Listen, we don't know what he's going to do, right? But if we play with left back Van der Ven, him coming in midfield and playing 3 centre backs, Porro's going to get the license to go and do what he does best, and he's not going to have to do as much as what we criticise him for, which is defend. So actually, if we do that, Porro might actually be playing in what would be his preferred position. I don't think Porro should be playing right wing. I don't think he's got the pace. I think he's better when he's almost in the Trent De Bruyne position, where he's sort of inside the line. So that might allow him to be able to do that more. But again, this is all hypotheticals, right? I don't know if we're going to play Van der Ven at left back at all, but I could see why that would work. And I think Porro is massively underrated in this fan base. I think that he needs to, when he's got adequate cover, when he has rest, when he has breaks, I think that he is a very, very good fullback. But he's not the best defender, and we need to just understand that. It's almost.
I think a lot of people are judging him on the season we just had. None of our players were good last season. Like, you can't say there was a consistent player on our side last season. So to say Porro, we should sell Porro, is we should sell everyone then, because at the end of the day, we were poor last year, and I think that's down to massive confidence issues as well.
No, yeah, you're right, but it's not. I just think with the way the market works, I think Man City, there might be a chance that they say, look, we want Porro, they might talk to him, and then he might be like, he hasn't signed the extension yet. That's the reason why I'm asking, because if he signs the extension, this conversation is done and it's irrelevant. But I see a world where Man City have been linked to him, and I know that Maresca likes his fullbacks to invert. Porro kind of suits that mold for what Maresca wants for Man City, and I don't know, because Spurs have been criticised for not selling players at the right time to get the full price. And there's a world where Romero doesn't go for the price we all think he's worth, and we have to sell him for a little bit lower because people know we're desperate to sell him. But you always get more money from the players that you don't want to sell almost. Like Kyle Walker, we didn't really want to sell him at the time, but he was one of our better assets and we sold him at the right time to get the most money. And the Porro situation, that might occur. I'm not saying we should sell him, but I'm just saying if 60 million comes, do you think the club are going to turn around and say, nah, 60 million, don't worry about that?
But I think this again goes back to the whole transfer stuff, right? Like if you said to me, is Porro worth 60 million? Would you sell him for that? I understand why people would say yes. I just don't back Spurs to make the right decision and sign the right player to then go and replace him. Like, I think that's the biggest problem that we have. Like, for instance, and there's some in the chat won't like this, but when you say we're going to sell Romero, who is the club captain, forget about being a Spurs fan. Imagine if you was an Atletico Madrid fan or you was a Real Madrid fan, and they were looking at signing Van Hecke and Romero, and you turn around and go, right, Van Hecke has a year left, Romero's got a 4-year deal, he's club captain, and you're telling me they're anywhere near the same price, one being a World Cup with, they're not in the same bracket of costing, but yet we probably are going to sell Van Hecke for more than what we're going to buy Van Hecke for probably more than what we're going to sell Romero for, which is madness. Like, when you look at the grand scheme of the centre backs, Romero should be priced at a higher value.
But it's the context, because they know, obviously, it's a couple of things. The fans, we don't help because there's criticism of the players and the board, and clubs know that, oh, look, this player wants out. So that's going to affect the price. They know that, if we don't sell Romero and like a big part of the fan base wants Romero out, then that could also work in the other club's favour, because they're like, it's going to look bad in Munich if they can't sell Romero. Do you know what I mean? They're going to go and protest. And that's the last thing the Zerbi wants. The Zerbi doesn't want any protests. He wants to keep the club together. Like you saw at the end when we were trying to stay survival. He was trying to do his best to keep the fans united. And so it's going to be, that's the only reason why I think that the Romero price might not be of what you are saying in terms of reflection and how much years he's got in his contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
Captain, like World Cup winner, Copa America winner as well. He should be going for way more than what. But remember, Brighton are a different club. They're better set up. Their fans aren't against them publicly like that. So they're able to
I think that's the prime thing, right? If I was a Brighton fan and they were saying we're going to sell Van Hecke, let's say if for 30 million, I'd be quite content that we would bring someone in that would be a decent level and would cost about that and we'd be okay. Whereas for me, I'm like, I could see us potentially selling Porro, buying a player for near enough exactly the same price that isn't as good as him. And then we sit there and go, well, how are we getting worse when we keep selling players and then buying players that ain't quite better than, like, isn't better than them or the same level as them? And this isn't just players, this is managers, this is directors of football. I just don't back that we will invest and do the right transfer and get the right person in next. And that's a problem, right? Because then you never sell any players. So you have to make that gamble. But I just think that Spurs will get it wrong. I don't think Spurs will get it right because we don't seem to get it right very often. So, but we shall see. The last question that I've got before we do shoot off. I want to know, guys, the one signing that is realistic. And you can justify what your realistic is, because Chris was going to say Harry Kane. I know he was, because that's what he says every single time. But Alan, who would be your? It's just Harry Kane. That's what the answer is. Who would be your realistic signing? I think we have to rule with an iron fist here and say Bruno Gomes is not realistic. Who would be your realistic signing?
It's Morgan Gibbs quite realistic or not?
I still think it is. I think we'd have to spend a lot, but I still think it's realistic.
I still think he wants Spurs. I still think he wants Spurs. I think he wants to come to us. Maybe you know when we was going to sign him last season. Maybe Marinakis said to him, "Look, stay one more year, and then like I'll give you a verbal agreement and say you can go next season." Do you know what I mean? Never know, but
it's wishful thinking. But I hope you're right. Ash?
Yeah, but for me, it'd be probably if Morgan Gibbs White, no, Marmoush for me.
I like Marmoush.
Yeah,
I like Marmoush.
So that 350 grand a week is a.
That's 275.
275.
He's done his research.
I like it. Ash, the one player for you.
One player, that's difficult. Realistic as well. Also difficult.
But you can justify realistic. Like you can justify realistic if you want. Like I can see a realistic world where we sign Morgan Gibbs White, but I can also see why there's absolutely no chance that we sign Morgan Gibbs White. So it's your realistic.
Yeah, well, Morgan Gibbs White is the guy I really did like. I just don't think we can get it done. It's tough. I don't really know, man. Like, there's a few names on the list I think we can get done. I think Man United are linked to Believer though, but I was gonna say I think we could possibly get. I know he's not a progressive passer, but again, you just have to shop in the market that what's available. And Premier League's quite hard, but I think De Zerbi really likes Believer, isn't it? Water would be, that's my ideal guy. Water's my guy. That's who I want. But I just think he'll go to Liverpool, I'm being honest. All the people I want, I think they're going to other clubs. I don't think we'll get Stiller. I would love Stiller. I just don't think all the guys.
He's got a release clause of 35 million.
Huh?
He's got a release clause of 35 million, hasn't he?
No, but he's not on our list. That's why I don't think it's realistic. He's not on our. He's not come up on the list of players that we've been linked to.
But they're just reusing the transfer list of the last 3 years. It's all the same players. There's not been a new player that's been.
I think Barlow was linked as well.
Yeah, Barlow, free transfer.
No, but the reason why I'm saying that is because I feel like we've pivoted away from. Like I feel like we're going in the Premier League players, like Premier League proven and a certain age. Yeah. I feel like we're moving in that direction. So
fuck it, Ash. Just go with unrealistic.
I'm going to say Believer, bro. I'm just going to say Believer. Sorry.
Would you take Matoma?
Oh, lovely, of course. But I don't think Matoma would leave though. I think Matoma is so loyal. You know, like those Japanese, South Asians that. They find a home and they nestle. They don't move. They're loyal.
Apparently, he was offered like 700 grand or something stupid to go to
Saudi
or something. And apparently, him and Brighton both were like, "No, we're all right," which is just madness. But
700 grand.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take it either. So if there's any Saudis out there offering me, I'm not interested in it.
That's not enough.
I mean, we've been into
more than that, Luke.
We've been into Garassi. I think Garassi's got a good goal record. I know he doesn't do what De Zerbi does. Like De Zerbi likes intelligent footballers that link the play, and his hold-up play is good, but his link play, he's not like what João Pedro does, brings other players in, or like Jackson. Jackson does the whole link play thing where he brings up, made Palmer look excellent. Do you know what I'm saying? Palmer doesn't look the same guy without Jackson. But I like Garassi because he's just in the box and he's just a finisher. Do you know what I'm saying? He's just like, he's like if Richarlison, people like Richarlison for his box finishing, I just think Garassi is just another level. He's just a killer. And his season wasn't even that great. Say again?
It's a proven goal scorer.
Yeah. So, I just think this season was probably not one of his best, but he still got 17 in the league I'm talking about, not in all competitions. So if we link with Garassi and we get him, I think that would be a good signing. Compared to the other strikers that we linked with. I also like Mateta. I think Mateta is a good striker. Yeah. I like him. I've looked at his last 3-4 seasons, and I think he's been pretty consistent. This season's he hasn't played all of Palace's games, but in the summer he was linked to, was it AC Milan? Or in January, sorry. In January he was linked to AC Milan. but the deal never went through. I don't know if he failed a medical or whatever. But from when he was able to get out, I'm like, boy, you know what? That could be attainable. I'd take a player like him. I think he can bring a few players from the attack in by holding the ball up. And I think he's good. He's got enough athleticism and enough power, enough speed to get into the box to finish the chances. Unlike Solanke. Solanke's good at holding the ball, but he doesn't have the kind of athleticism and power to arrive in the 6-yard box to get on the end of things anymore. Like I feel like he either does one or the other, and he's too inconsistent for whatever reason. I don't know. Richarlison can't do the hold up, but he's in the box, and we just need someone that can do both.
Yeah,
we need plenty of players that can do loads. Alan, big up to you, my man. Thank you very much for coming on. Do you just want to do a little piece saying what you've got coming up on your channel in the next week or so?
Thanks for having me on again, mate. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I've just got lots of transfer talks. I'm always keeping up to date with the news. Always doing the research and all the facts to who's on what wages, who's doing what, who's attainable, you know, what's realistic, what isn't. When stories come out and it's ridiculous story. Remember last season when people were talking about Mbappe, and then I just made a video laughing about it because it's stupid. Yeah, things like that. So I've tried to look at things logically rather than try and clickbait the world and say like we're signing all the top players. There's so many attainable players that we can get, and I like talking about it on my channel. I enjoy talking about the transfer window, but I try not to get carried away. It's just nice to talk about something positive rather than talking about, last season was horrendous, mate. Absolutely horrendous. Content creating, all you guys, man, big up to you, because I don't know how we did it. Last season is almost impossible, man. But we did it. We got through it. And hopefully this time it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, for sure, guys. I'll put the link in the chat, and it'll also be in the description as well at the end of the video. Please go over, smash the subscribe, and follow Alan over on X. And then, Ash, what have you got coming up over the next couple of weeks, my man?
I've just thought of a player, bro.
Go on.
Thought of a player. I don't know if it's realistic, but I'm gonna say it anyway. And die. I want to die. I want to die on the left.
Oh, Everton player.
Everton player. Yeah. He started the season on the right, and he's not. I don't think he's a right winger. But Grealish was on the left, and Grealish had a good start. And I think when they moved him over to the left, that's when he started getting his GA. And the season before that, when he was on the left, he had I think between 9 and 10 goals. I can't remember how many assists he got. So for me, I would take him die. And I remember what he did to us in the FA Cup when we were playing at home. No, we were playing away with Conte, Sheffield United. He came on and he ripped us a new one. And he did it as well when we played Everton, as Dragusin was in defence. And he turned them left and right, and he put it in. I was like, yeah, this guy, he's a monster.
I thought Greg Gushin's knee was going to go again.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, what have I got coming up? I'm taking a sabbatical, really, until maybe July. I think July, come back. But yeah, you can find me on X. I'm doing little bits and pieces on X. I'm looking at players that we are linked with, but are a bit under the radar, and I think that can make a little bit of difference. So yeah, if you're interested in that, then yeah, check me out on X. Yeah, that's it really. Thanks for having me on.
Make sure you go over, follow the guys, subscribe to the channels. Hopefully they will be on again soon, and hopefully Spurs continue to make some decent signings. I've just seen something come up on X, and apparently Trippier's already looking at cancelling his contract at Wolves because of them sacking their manager, which is just craziness. He's been there for about 30 seconds, but we'll see how that goes. Old Kieran Tripps, the guy that was going to replace
Trippier, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hey, it could have been us, we're that close. That could have been us.
Hey, Trips coming in, Robertson, Danny, Ben Davies. We're getting the band back together. Oh Lord! Right, guys, thank you both for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Massive thank you to the chat. It's been great as the first session back for a little while. And we'll be back next week to discuss what mental stuff happens in the 1 week that we're away from Tottenham Hotspur.
It's going to be loads
Guys, go on. Oh, I think we've lost you. Guys, last thing, as always, come on, you Spurs.
of.